I don't think anything about this project could be described as like, when we planned this, and then that's why it ended up like this. It's kind of a ridiculous bunch of songs put together. Hey Little Mama and All Right Here were written sort of at the end of 21, early 22. We started work tracking those in the studio sort of May last year. We sort of finished them and then revisited them at the beginning of this year too. I feel like I got an experience with those songs that I never really get, is like when you finish a song and you put it out, and then after 3 months of living with it, you might hear it on the radio or hear it somewhere, and you go, oh, I wish I could have changed that thing. But because we've been tracking them for so long, I got to go in and change those things, which was really nice. A couple of lyric things, a couple of musical things. And then obviously they ended up getting paired with a couple of other songs that came from a different time of my life. The biggest changes were less. We took a lot of stuff off the tracks. I made those records with a guy named Chris Stefano, who I made my whole first record with, and we're really good mates, and we make those records just him and I playing all the parts. And I think we just found ourselves like putting more and more stuff on them to the point where, with a better sort of time and perspective, we're like, we don't need all that stuff. Which I think is just a rule of thumb with, all my great, the great records that I love. You can remember all the parts, and there are a few of them, and they're great. And we just tried to hone in on that a little more. I feel like the EP is called Life Upside Down because I feel like my life was turned upside down, the last sort of 6-7 months. And I wouldn't say Over For You was written for a project or written to be a single or even written to come out, really. It was the only song I wrote during a 4-month period after, a really rough breakup. And I think I just wrote that song because it needed to be written for me. I've told the story before of how it came out. I played it sort of impromptu at a show in Australia a week after I wrote it and went to sleep, and because of the time difference between Australia and America, by the time I woke up, it had been all over TikTok and the internet, and radio stations had picked up the snippets from the live thing and started playing it, and it sort of took on a life of its own after that, which has provided a lot of really positive experiences, by the way. But yeah, I don't think anything about this project could be described as like, we planned this, and then that's why it ended up like this. It's kind of a ridiculous bunch of songs put together, which I think is the most authentic way to present this music from this time of my life. Yeah, the session for Over For You, it was the first session I'd done in a while, and it was with two people I'd never met before, and another guy who I am quite good mates with, Jeff Warburton, who I've written a bunch of songs with. It felt like a kind of safe, creative place because of him being in there. And yeah, I remember I just walked in, we wrote it up here on Music Row, and I walked into the studio, and I remember sitting in the corner of the room and just being like, well, it's gonna be a waste of time if we try to write anything else. How's this? And just started, I don't know, singing and playing, and the words came, I guess it was probably like 5 hours from when we started to when we had a finished demo, which most of the vocal on the record is from that session, so pretty quickly. I think an environment where it's comfortable just to talk about stuff for a little while, because I think I've found that if like the concept of the song is the hardest thing, right? Like, what are you actually trying to say here? Which I think Paul McCartney said, like, when you have the title, you have 50% of the song already, and I think by what he meant by that is like, what's the purpose of writing this song? And for me, especially lately, it's been a very like an internal kind of thing. Like, I've been trying to like work out how I'm feeling or what I want to say or where I want to go. And I think, yeah, just a space where it's comfortable to have that conversation. I've written songs recently where we'll talk for 3 hours and then we'll write the song in 45 minutes, rather than just starting and then kind of sweating over every line. Since Over For You came out, the way that I've seen people connecting with that song is unlike anything I've ever done before. As personal as it felt when I wrote it, I think I've realized over the last 6 months that feeling is kind of how 50% of everyone in a breakup feels. And unfortunately, people are breaking up all the time. And I know about a lot of them now because they reach out and tell me, and I'm smiling because that's like how I choose to deal with things in my life. Is just if it's laugh or cry, I'll always try to laugh. But it does really mean a lot that people will reach out the way they have through comments or direct messages and share their story. And I think the biggest difference is just the simple difference of like, I love that song to thank you for writing that song. And whether that was thank you for writing that song, it made me feel less alone as I go through this feeling or this experience, or thank you for writing that song, I listened to it 100 times last night. It helped me get through the night, which I got that message 2 days ago. And as a songwriter and from where that song came from in my life, that means a lot. Yeah, On My Own Again, I wrote that chorus over my first cup of coffee of the day one morning in November last year, and it really just felt like the first moment where you stop looking back, you sort of take stock of where you are, and you start looking forward and sort of find the optimism in that. And again, I didn't finish that song until February, and I got in a room with Chris DiStefano and Jeff Warburton again, safe space to go into the actual storyline of those verses. Yeah, much like Over For You, I feel like I wasn't trying to write a certain kind of song or trying to make it something, it just is. And that's been really fulfilling as a songwriter lately, just to try to write what is and not try to make it something. I don't know if that makes sense at all, it makes sense in my brain. For sure, On My Own Again is, we made a video for that song when we were touring a couple of months ago. We went through Germany, the Netherlands, the UK, and Ireland. And I spent a few days in Morocco before that as well, just to check it out. We went surfing, it was amazing. And we just shot a bunch of stuff. And I feel like the video that we made for that matches and enhances the feeling of that song more than any other video that I've made. And so certainly when we were making that video and watching the final edits, and then obviously listening to the record while watching the video, definitely felt exactly the same way that I felt in that time. And as heavy as the song might feel, it finishes with a smile on my face too, and hopefully people can feel that when they listen to it as well. I hope they take away from it whatever they need to. Whoever listens to this, a lot of people will discover it because of the song Over For You. It's the one that's been out the longest. They might hear it on the radio. And hopefully those people get what they need from that song, and hopefully they listen to the next few songs as well and sort of can not spend too much time in that Over For You headspace. As much as I've learned that when you go through heavy things and you need to sit in those emotions and feel them, and it's important. I also feel like I've always had this kind of default setting of optimism and hope and positivity, and it feels really good to get back to that. So hopefully if they keep listening through the tracks, they can get to that. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's definitely different things. There's a couple of different things for sure. There's stuff on like Hey Little Mama. I love that record because there's so many different sounds for me, like the bongos and the steel drums and the ukuleles, and to me that's really fun to make records like that. It's really fun to play records like that. We've played that song all over the world the last couple of months, and every night, the whole band and I look down and we can't wait to play that song. And there's that side of things, and then the other side of things too, which I guess is that true authenticity thing. And I think the best representation of that is a song like Over For You, where I can read through the lyrics of that, and there's not necessarily a lyric in that song that I've heard in another song before. It's like they're just genuine feelings and thoughts that were real in the moment, And I know that's not always possible to go in every day and do that, but I think it's something to aspire to as a songwriter, and that's definitely a new aspiration for me. I hope people enjoy them or find something in them that can help, or make them want to come to a show and make them want to listen to the next song. My favorite artists have those songs that make you want to sit on your own with headphones on and listen to it 100 times, and then they also have the songs that make me want to go to the show and sing at the top of my lungs and smile and put my arm around the person next to me, and hopefully we can do all that.